Woods Vaughn with the Women's Business Network, and we're here this afternoon with our other candidate, Nigel Long. Welcome, Nigel.
Thank you, and thank you for inviting me to answer a few of your questions.
We're looking forward to it. So based on what you know about Colonial Beach, what do you see as the top priorities for our town and why?
Well, safety and security, I think, is the prime responsibility for our town council to provide to all the residents here in town. And I use that in a very broad sense. You know, police, fire and rescue, medical services, but also how do we have safe drinking water? How do we dispose of our drinking water? How do we have safe sidewalks for pedestrians to get around on? The big sense, the global sense of safety and security for our residents, I think, is the most important thing the town has to provide.
So understanding some of our challenges is in infrastructure, the beach erosion, sidewalks, water and sewer, and budget. These have all been pretty hot topics. With your experience, how do you see any of these being improved, or do we need to eliminate any of these?
I think we need to try and work on as many of these things as we can. The key to this, though, is better long-term planning. When I ran a business, I had to deal with my budget for this year, but I also had to look at what was my 5-year, 10-year plan. And I don't see enough of that long-term planning here in town. So we jump from crisis to crisis, figure out ways to fund today's problem without looking at how we set a solid economic base for improving things. And there's no simple solution, but we need grants to help support the infrastructure of this town. I was very disappointed that we didn't fully fund a grant writer for the town council. These are the sort of things the council needs to do if we're going to improve the environment for everybody living here.
Do you believe the growth of downtown and our Main Street is healthy and successful? If not, what is your solution to change that?
I think downtown has had some success, and the whole Main Street program could be a big benefit if it gets fully implemented here in town. What I think we need to do, though, is to have a holistic approach by the business community here in town to these things. There are various organizations and NGOs who are working, let's hope they're working in parallel towards it, but I think if there was coordination, better coordination between all of them, there would be a better chance for these things to meet the needs of the business community here in Colonial Beach.
What's more important, building more homes or creating more businesses and commercial space?
Well, I don't think these things are mutually exclusive. I think there's clearly a demand for additional housing here in the town, and we need to do that in a controlled way to maintain the nature of our whole community. And in fact, if we do that successfully, then there will be increased demand for our business community. I think the town can support the business community better in how to grow, but it needs a bigger base really across the whole year, not just the few months of the summer, if it's going to be a viable business community here.
It is perceived we have a parking issue. Parking for residents, businesses, visitors is at a minimum. Do you have a solution, and what would that be?
Well, I don't think there's any easy solution to any of the problems facing the town. I think we have to differentiate between long-term parking for the visitors who come in the summer, who want to be here for 10 or 12 hours. The solution for that, I think, is probably to set up off-site parking. Maybe that area that's just the motel that's just been demolished could be paved over, and we could run shuttles from there in the summer for people to go to the beach. But we also need to enable people to park and enjoy the retail community and the food and dining options with shorter term parking options for those. That doesn't mean that anybody who gets on a meter here in town parks for the whole day. And I think we also have to find ways of providing parking, and I think there are some solutions to that for employees who work here. It's not easy for our business community to find employees. They can't penalize them by paying $20 a day to park during the summer, and I have some ideas on that as well.
If you could change one zoning code, what would it be and why?
Well, I'm going to sort of move outside downtown to answer that, because my biggest concern is the PUD, the planned unit development below Wilkerson's. I think it's sort of ironic that that surrounds our wastewater treatment plant. But what I'm really concerned about there is that if, currently owned by part of the Lennar Group, if that development went ahead in totality quickly, the town would be overwhelmed. And we don't have in that PUD a basis on which we can recover the costs for the town. Now, there are limitations on what you can do, but there are also ways that you can tackle it. And I've actually had some experience of this from outside of this area. So I think we need to take another look at that planned unit development and make sure that whatever happens here happens in a controlled way that the town can afford.
It is perceived that we are not very business friendly. Businesses, processes, costs, they're not consistent, and support is lacking. Do you have a plan to streamline the new business process or minimize costs, which I know that kind of hits into the budget?
Well, I mean, I think I understand as a previous business CEO that the first thing any business needs is stability and predictability, both financially and in terms of how things should operate in town. And I would support that strongly to make sure we give our business community that clear direction on what's happening here in town. And we'll talk a bit, I think, in a minute about, taxation of businesses. But I think this all comes back to having long-term planning and a financial process that looks at the long term rather than what just happens this year. And it's the responsibility of the town council to direct the town staff to do that sort of long-term planning, so that there is a forecasted plan, a CIP that looks at real numbers over 5 or 10 years. And I want to be part of that process and help the staff see the importance of that if we're going to continue to grow and maintain this community.
As you know, this year the food and lodging taxes were increased, which is not a stable or guaranteed annual amount. Increases to taxes, sewer and water, and businesses are a touchy subject. We have a lot of residents and businesses that have taken a hit this year. If elected, what 3 steps would you take to put our town on a firmer financial footing?
So I think first of all, you may remember that I spoke against the 2% increase in the lodging and meals tax.
Correct.
When that came up. I was happy to see that reduced, but really applying taxes like that is a regressive approach to taxation. We should ensure that people who can afford to pay taxes here in town are the ones that do support the town, and that we provide support to those people in the community that cannot afford to do that. I spoke in I think last year about the support we give to our elderly and disabled residents, and spoke about how we can improve on that. Those fees that you talk about, we are not allowed as a town council, as I understand it, to provide support on those items. And so fees, whether it's sewer, whether it's for trash, those fees become costs that our less fortunate residents can't absorb. So I think there's a lot of things we need to do at that level, and meals and lodging tax is not the way forward, certainly if I get elected to town council.
How do you plan to involve residents or businesses' input into your decision-making process?
So the only input I want is from residents and businesses. I'm not part of any group, NGO, committee that I would be representing on town council. My intention is to represent the voters of Colonial Beach. I would plan to set up monthly availability, not rely on social media as the communication mechanism, and make it, during the nice months, I'd love to sit out here by the water and talk to people. In the winter, maybe it's phone and other methods of communication, but I want to be available on a monthly basis because the community needs to have input into the things that town council is doing, and it's my intention to ensure that happens.
So, what is your most favorite thing about Colonial Beach and why?
It's a hard question because the implication is there's only one, and I really have to say there are two. The thing that drew me to and keeps me in Colonial Beach is the community. It's a wonderful group of people here, different interests, different ages, different backgrounds, but it is a community. Those who have lived in Northern Virginia, as I did, will understand the difference and why community here is so important. But I can't get away from the beauty of the water here. We're sitting at the head of Monroe Bay, and the ability to enjoy the lifestyle here and the water in this community is fantastic.
So thank you, Nigel. Truly appreciate your time and your candid answers, and thank you, and best of luck.
Thank you.